there is no support, no real support structure for leaders in organizations whatsoever. Very often you would be promoted to a manager because you're really good at your craft. The more that you rise, you have less peers, you have less people to talk to, you're more isolated in your decision making, but the pressure rises, the stress rises, and that your decisions are of more high risk and of high impact. You lack mentorship.
Hello, everyone. Today's episode, I promise it's going to be very interesting because we have a wonderful Bo here with us. If you don't mind introducing yourself, because your CV is incredible.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. I love your podcast. I'm definitely a fan, and I'm happy to be here. We can talk about experiences and stuff, but I think that what defines me the most at the moment is that I'm founding a company right now. I'm founding the Leadership Club, and I think that this takes a lot of who I am and my time right now and the value that I give. And I'm very focused on designing experiences. And so I'm experienced designer in a sense, always. So this is something that is kind of transforms itself. It's an evolution, but I come from the area of creative and design and product design and so forth. And so this kind of evolves into what I do. And a big emphasis of my work was always education and training and growth. So this has an aspect in all the work I've been doing so far, and so previously, and in my current, current work. Apart from that, I think I'm a very curious person. I'm moved by seeing people work their way through to growth and to change, and it makes me feel alive when I see something clicks and people change and improve their overall experience with work and life. And I think that moved me a lot to coaching, which I've been working with in the past years. And this kind of integrated very well with my leadership positions and the last process that I was doing with going up the managerial ladder, the leadership ladder, and building teams and building products and building processes slowly in bigger scales. And that made me, I think, very curious about what could be done in this area. Therefore, I took this direction that I'm doing right now together with a co-founder that I'm working with that has very similar passions. And the last thing that I would say that very much defines me, how I am in the moment in my life, is that I am a father since 2 years now, and that has absolutely transformed my life and my perspective on people and my perspective on the world. And I think that's just, a part of my evolution, impacts a lot of other areas in my life as well. More practically, I had an agency for many years, and then I worked with a lot of startups and I was doing a lot of trainings. COVID hit and everything kind of changed as well in the world of tech, world of product, world of leadership, how people work remotely and hybrid, and then slowly back on site. And then, with time I circled back to education in the form of tech education. And so I was working in tech education for a while, building programs, teams, processes, ensuring transformation. And I think that was my thing. I think that eventually, when I look at the whole curve that I've been through, the one thing that keeps coming back is this building of empowerment platforms, in a sense, something that other professionals, other people can tap into and collaborate or grow through and transform. And this has been kind of like the line that takes through it.
We are definitely more than our CVs, and you are no exception. I mean, you have much more to that than all the job titles you've undertaken.
Yeah.
And it seems that your life, your work experience has been leading towards creating this, leadership club. Do you mind telling us at which moment, you guys decided together with your co-founder? Was it like sitting in a bar and writing on a piece of napkin or something else? Was there a moment when you guys both decided, okay, we're going to do that?
Can I just quickly hijack the question as well? Sorry, Christian. What made you think of creating a product? Did you see something that wasn't working? Was there something that you and your co-founder came across time and time again that then made you sit down at the coffee shop maybe and think like, oh yeah, we should probably do something about this?
Absolutely. It is very well driven by our experiences and the need and urgency that we see in the world at the moment. And also, it has a little bit of a romantic side to it. We're coming from different directions in a sense. My co-founder is an ex-McKinsey and BCG consultant, and he's worked a lot with startup innovation and hubs and consulting in that area. And he noticed also kind of like repeating patterns again and again in the world of leadership and management and how teams work. And he was working on a concept of his own while I was working on on a concept of my own, which was also very much driven from my experience. I'll try to wrap it up somehow in an answer because it's interconnected with so many things. I think that through the time that I was working in kind of like companies and organizations at various scales, I was paying attention, or I was seeing a pattern in which many managers, I felt, or many leaders in their area were ill-equipped in a sense. They were not really working with the right tools that are actually out there for you to be able to lead teams processes into innovative products and environments. And that also caused a lot of difficulties, but like parallel, a lot of challenges within the team would keep bringing them into fight or flight mode, and something that is, let's say, there is this kind of like fire extinguishing moments that keep repeating through the days and the weeks, and you never really get to sit down and think and reflect and put some process in order and vision in order and communicate that to your teams and work with them and have like real one-on-ones and real culture growing as well within that. So there is a lot of this volatility, and that affected many organizations that I was a part of very strongly. And there was this pendulum of movement between continuous strategy pivots and shifting priorities and changes in the team and restructuring and changes in the roadmap. And there's um, all these things that are simultaneously happening, that when I would look at that, I would see two things. One is a major difference between the actual performance and outcome of teams that are led in a specific way that is more reflective and processual, communicative, collaborative. There is a bit of like an internal culture and an understanding to each other. There is utilization of coaching tools. There are maybe mentorships interdependently created between team members. You really, really see the difference very clearly between those who don't. In when you have a look just like at the numbers of departments and on the numbers of what people put in the in the reports and the hands-ons and everything around that. And the second thing that I noticed is that there is no support, no real support structure for leaders in organizations whatsoever. Very often you would be promoted to a manager because you're really good at your craft, and you hope, like, the company is placing that hope on you that you bring that kind of craft to the organization of a team and something of scale. But it's very, very, very uncommon. Very seldomly does it also come with more than a little guide, a little PDF, a little playbook or something, even if even come with something like that, that's like magnificent. And then you lack mentorship. The more that you rise, you have less peers, you have less people to talk to, you're more isolated in your decision making, but the pressure rises, the stress rises. And that your decisions are of more high risk and of high impact slowly. And so that reverbs through the whole organization and your own personal life. People are like working through so much stress, and there are tools out there and there are ways to work through that, to resolve, to shift to another level of working where you have more time on your hands, you're more balanced, you have more peace of mind, you can for the longer run, also not so quickly burn out and not so much get to that point and get to these critical moments. And so many people have these questions in their mind, and that made me think, that really made me, through these experiences, my personal experiences, and talking to a lot of people, I figured out we need a community. We really need to pull together a little bit as product and tech leaders and founders, people who are working in this space. We have so many questions and so many changes, especially in this moment where AI is getting into every single thing that we're doing, and it creates extremely strong disruption and gaps between also the way that we used to do things and the way that we're slowly getting to. And funnily enough, right? I mean, being a leader in a product and tech environment is something that is just relatively new. It's just kind of like slowly developing. So we're just figuring things out, and then there's huge disruptions coming in, and we need to work on that, and we need to get into a conversation, and we need support and context. We need to learn from each other. And that's the second thing that I imagine that is really necessary. And these are these kind of like learning environments. There's like development environments that are basically a sustainable long-term approach to change, something that you go through a process with, like with a specific group that you build accountability with, that is led by a leadership coach, that is coaching oriented as well. And there's this space created for it. We call it peer circles. It's based on PCG, which is a very known method. We invented nothing, but we're mixing things together in a way that we feel is very accurate and impactful for people. And that's like kind of combined in a platform. That's where we're working in. So this growth aspect and the community aspect, platform, and the events, personal connection with people, that is super important. Not even to talk about the neurological effect of doing things like that, what that does to you neurologically, being surrounded with people that identify with your situation, and you come out of your bubble and grow together. Should I move from there to the way that me and my co-founder
Yes,
met?
let's do that. But before we
Yeah,
move on, just quick observation.
sure.
What you described, Bo, it resonates with our previous discussions with other guests, where there is leadership model which is more like ad hoc, when leaders are not prepared, are not
Mhm.
equipped to take on more responsibilities, and they do the best they can, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And there is an effective leadership where there are tools which have been in existence, but which are not being used necessarily. And there is a way on how to deliver those tools, how to help through maybe support group, maybe through leadership programs, maybe through other things.
Mhm.
And that actually is how things could be done, and they are being done, and that affects not only the professional lives, but also personal lives. And it's quite evident. And that's why also we created this podcast, Beyond the Noise, because it's very important to tune in and find those tools, find those approaches that, and there is no need to invent anything new. These tools are in existence. It's a matter of how can we better utilize those tools and become more efficient leaders.
Absolutely. It's about utilization. It's about making it accessible for people. It's also about bringing the right people together. It has a lot to do with curation as well, right? It has to be a part of it, and the structure that you build around it. As a person who builds programs for many years, I believe that this structured approach is the methodologies are a very important aspect of it. Otherwise, I mean, what's the difference? You could come together with other people and rant. That's great. You can rant about your challenges and the problems in the company and the problems in the market. And yeah, I mean, we're all doing that once in a while, and it's good. Do it. It's important to go ahead and rant there. The question we asked ourselves is, how do you bring that to real sustainable outcomes, real sustainable change? And so we had to look at all running programs that are available out there for leaders in our area. And we found it. There are some really great programs out there, but their effectiveness is not necessarily where you might want it to be if you really have to do some specific changes in the way that you do things and the way that you want to impact your organization and also your personal life. We don't have to be so stressed. We don't have to have all this unnecessary suffering. We can work through that, and you can do it alone, but you don't have to. And it takes a lot less time to make that change, and it's more effective long term. So that's a lot of what we were thinking about when we put this together. Yeah.
Bo, you mentioned just now how you looked at different programs because there are some programs that do exist. What is leadership challenges you think that most of the leadership programs still get wrong?
I think one thing has to do definitely with thinking more long term. With most programs, at least the programs we've taken part in or we know, most of them are short term, they're on spot, they're really specific, and that helps tackle specific things, but it does not create real change over time. And so we were looking into how do you do this over time, but not in a way that a busy professional will be overwhelmed by, right? So that leads to the second part, that's cadence. I think cadence, like the right cadence, the right amount of time over the specific period, is a very important aspect of it. The other thing is accountability. I think a very important aspect of it, because you can take a very nice online course about leadership, about management tools, about team dynamics, about navigating change. Great. But even if you do complete it, which will take you probably a lot of time because you're doing things in between, you don't have the accountability to do that. And maybe without the reflection part and having other people to talk about this together with and going through it, it lacks the, bringing that to the practical aspect. What does that actually mean for me on Monday? What does that actually mean? What can I actually bring to the table and test and experiment and bring back to these people and look at it together? Because this is a little bit of that. Otherwise, it stays in this kind of fluffy area where you go like, this is great. I kind of got it. It makes me feel good as a leader. But what do I actually do with this? This is a little bit, a part of that. And then there's definitely the PCG, whole methodology of working together in a peer group, in a peer coaching aspect, but then there's the actual coach. So the actual experienced leadership coach, executive coach, founder coach we have in our teams. We have a wonderful collective of coaches and facilitators that we work with. They've been helping hundreds of people going through these processes already, and then now what they do is that they work with us to scale this impact to the groups. And so they come and they utilize real coaching methodologies, clarifying questions, like tools that really help to integrate, to reflect, to switch perspective, to expand your mind around the options, have a look at root issues, because it's very often not the issue that's really on the table. It's not really that I'm having a problem bringing in the specific tool or bringing the team on board to a project. And it's very often the underlying human aspect, the emotions behind it, for me personally, very much. And then also in my team and in the culture of the organization. It's something that is also like you can work with as a leader. You have more influence to do that. And so something that we bring to the table. I think these are the main aspects. So
Bo, you mentioned a PCG a couple of times, and for listeners that may not be aware of what that approach is, could you expand a little bit?
absolutely. Basically, it's peer coaching group methodologies where you set a specific environment, safe, confidential, trusting. You build rapport between the people. You take them through a specific structure, and you utilize coaching methodologies, or you create also a group coaching environment where people coach each other, which is just like amplifies the impact of that quite well. You could see it all the way to Stoic ancient Greece in the philosophic academies. But this
Yeah.
one part of what we are utilizing in our peer circle program.
And I can see how your approach could be beneficial because I've been through different leadership programs myself, and you mentioned cadence. It is very important because sometimes when you're immersed, you feel good, you kind of pump up your skills and whatnot. But after it's over a couple of months, you don't even remember what you've gone through. And then, day to day things, they kind of take over. Another thing is usually the program's agenda is kind of given to you,
Delivered.
whereas yes, delivered, but in your approach, the agenda, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of co-generated by the group participants as well. For example, you have peer circles, there are different themes, but within those themes, members, they co-generate the agenda and they are responsible together what is being discussed. And
Exactly.
also on top of that, they're surrounded by people who are facing similar issues. So they're not people from random industries or randomly compiled group, but people actually facing similar problems, and they can together create something more than the sum of parts of that.
Exactly. This is actually a very important aspect of the peer coaching group model, that the people who are taking part need to have similar realities. Similar doesn't have to be the same, but they need to have kind of like similar realities so that they can really ping pong on these issues together. There's really a lot to learn from each other, especially now as things change so much. And for the first point that you mentioned, sometimes people ask, what's the feeling like to take part in a peer circle session? And I refer to this when you go to a conference or an event, and there's a bunch of things, a lot is going on. You're listening to some experts and you're like chatting in between and doing that. There's a lot of things to do. And then there's this one moment where you find a group of people that are having a similar experience around something, maybe, but with different perspectives, different industries, and you have a passionate conversation about something that you come out with insights out of, and you go, I should totally do that. And you have to go and write some things down because you can't not do that. And that becomes the most memorable part of that whole conference or the whole event. So that in a 6-month period is what we're creating. That's the idea.
That's great. Great. And I'm still curious to hear the romantic side of of your venture.
As I mentioned, I was kind of on my own path of developing this concept, this specific program idea of platform, community, and so forth. And my co-founder Juan was doing the same, but separately. And we know each other only through some events that we've been together, all related to kind of like the Berlin-based product design community and leadership community and so forth. And then at some point he called me up and he wanted to interview me, to ask me about things, because this is sort of like my area of expertise. And as he's talking, I go, I'm working on something super similar, like in many ways. Like it seems like we're working parallel. Would you like to get together and talk a little bit about it and see if this is something we want to collaborate on? And then I invited him to our garden. We made some tea. We sat down in the beautiful garden. It was last spring. It was a bit of time ago. Yeah, and then we were like, chatting in this beautiful context, this beautiful environment, and we really like, found that there's so many things that are interconnected in our experiences and our approach and the way that we want to build things. And yeah, and then it kind of like rolled out into this founder romance. This I don't know how to call it yet, but just keep going, keep building, keep doing things, keep exploring, researching, talking to people. And yeah, and that's what brought us for today.
And nice weather always helps the garden environment. Probably it was very conducive for very creative decisions that you've taken since.
Yeah, good things happen in the garden over tea. This I gotta say.
Yeah. So since then, you've done so much work. You created this ecosystem. I'm curious, maybe if you don't mind telling us like shortly about one of the peer circles. You have so many peer circles. They are led by different thought leaders, specialists. Maybe if you could describe the work that is going to be done in one of the peer circles. You have AI, scaling, strategic thinking, restructuring, so that we have a feel of what could be discussed and what would be that outcome of those weekly or bi-weekly meetings?
Yep. Happy to share. Is there a specific one that you had a look at just to get a bit of an idea if there's some one that
Most of
is
them,
more
yeah,
interesting
most of them
to
are
talk about than
interesting.
others?
For example, if you tell us maybe about like emotional intelligence peer circle, what people should expect from that circle, what kind of people would go there, what would be the topics, and what will they come out with?
I'll start by saying that we have plural kind of like paths that you can take. So different peer circles with different themes. They are really, really specifically interconnected to the expertise of the coach and facilitator that is working with, and directly connected to the needs that that we are learning about from the community and from the market, in a sense. So these are like all things that are very much included in this. And then we have some that are, just to give an idea, around AI adoption, around scaling leaderships, around strategic leadership, which is with Piotr, a wonderful coach and an ex guest of yours, and a good friend. And an amazing facilitator for a circle. And we have peer circles around growing teams and like motivating, inspiring through restructuring and layoffs. A lot about navigating change and uncertainty, because to be very honest, this is very much, on the table at the moment. A lot of people come back to us with that, and we also have a specific one for burnout prevention. So you can really, really tackle that. And there will be another one for neurodivergent leadership. These are the themes mostly working on right now. And we're opening a peer circle soon for leaders who want to move to become founders, or that are growing a company as a solopreneurs, or little side project that they hope will become eventually their thing to really get out there into independence. So there's a circle for founders that we want to open, and changers, people who are pivoting or in between their leadership roles, are looking for something super accurate for their next step. Specifically for emotional intelligence, as we call it, EI in the age of AI, it's coming to the root of the topic, where AI as a technological advancement is coming and is disrupting, and it's going into our processes and organizations and to the way that we work generally, and it's changing the very aspect of what the product is. And so therefore it's completely restructuring the way that we work. But then at the same time, it is going to the root of what on the base of that makes a really good environment that is adaptable, that is able to work with this kind of change, that is able to move to a new level of innovation in a healthy, balanced sort of system. And this system is it's very much about the way that we reflect on things. It's very much the way that we, as leaders and managers, founders, are basically kind of, I'd say, tackling these specific topics at the same time as we are like growing more emotionally intelligent to where we are at this place, at this space, what is our constellation and the constellation of our teams and our organizations. So becoming more aware of that and having more tools to work with that. So really specific tools that you learn on the process, and you gouge for development with other leaders as well, and how they are tackling the solutions they bring on board. And the whole idea of it is that it really, session by session, you would continue to develop in this direction, to the point that you move from a place you feel a lot more challenged by that, to the place where you feel like you're swimming in water. You're swimming in your water. You adapt and you learn and you grow as an emotionally intelligent leader, and you understand a lot more the nuances. Important to say that a lot of the things are happening in between the sessions as well. You know it from coaching very, very clearly. You have a coaching client, and you know that what's happening between the sessions, that they come back to a session. so many things have happened and unfolded, and sometimes it's not just that specific session and the moment, but it triggers a whole chain reaction of things in your life. And similarly to that, that's also what's happening in between sessions in our programs, where you have this platform, you have a community, you have this group that you keep working with, you have these tools that you keep practicing. And there's specific experimentations that you commit to and you bring back to the table, bring back to the team and to your cohort. And to say that apart from that, sometimes you would go to an event of ours and things would click then, and between just informal conversations. And this is just another aspect of it that is, no, it's not the expected work, but it's rather the unfolding reality that happens between the sessions too.
Thank you for describing so many managers and leaders and organizations are so used to the old way of getting these lessons. Is that it's important to actually capitalize, like just like you did, on how different you are to everything that they used to so far. So I think it's great that you are bringing this to the market. And you've seen loads of interest. Have you noticed a pattern of any sort of topics of conversations that people are craving right now the most, and they're not getting answers anywhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that it's noticing these patterns, being observant to it, and kind of like documenting it and looking into it is something that we've been doing for the last period, very, very strictly and methodologically. There's a lot of things to talk about in that sense, but I think if you have a look at the biggest sort of repeating patterns, or maybe kind of, I would say maybe the loudest that I could that I could kind of share with, because it does not mean that they are the most important ones and that they are the only ones that are happening, but oftentimes it's amplified by plural experiences and directions where it comes from, is that one, people feel, so many leaders and many founders in our organization, in our community, they do feel that the current changes are too fast, and they don't really know how to keep up with that. And they are supposed to be, in a sense, they feel that they are supposed to be these, that knowledge base in the organization, that knowledge base in the team, a person that comes with answers. And suddenly they find themselves with a lot of questions. And it's not just with them, right? But generally, another theme interconnected with that is everything that has to do around job security. You can see it everywhere. I don't need to pull up any statistics and research at the moment, but I think that it's becoming very, very evident that the whole system is being restructured, and that many organizations are either going through it right now or are about to go through it in the near future. And so they are asking themselves, many leaders are asking, how do I prepare for this well? And many leaders are asking, what do I need to work on to make sure that it goes well for the organization and for me, because I want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I think that people want to feel safe around that. And then there's a lot of conflicts and issues and topics that are coming up from the teams that they're working with, feeling very unsafe about the future of their roles and about the future. Basically, many products on their own are in question. I think these are kind of like very massive ones. I do believe that many people are thinking, or we see a pattern where people are thinking also about what kind of side business can I slowly grow? What kind of like little thing can I pamper and work with just in case? But also, this is a lot. So in many ways, we can kind of like suggest this a lot can be less by practicing in specific, working through in a specific way. But then also, yes, you probably can and should, invest in that. So there's like a little bit of what I say is there is a compounding interest, very strong compounding interest in investing in yourself, no matter which direction you go, and in becoming a student of leadership. As Simon Sinek said once, a good leader is a student of leadership. And I do totally agree with that. And I think being a student of leadership, no matter on your seniority level and scale of where you work, is super important to do that in. It's definitely a huge leverage for the future. And
And
then
it
I would
probably
say
helps to be surrounded by people in similar situations, that you find it's not just only you who is struggling with this volatility. I mean, technology sector has been always volatile, but especially lately since AI, it's even more volatile. And, and when you're surrounded by people in similar situation, it probably helps to kind of think in with a cool head, what can I do to be more
it's
prepared for that?
it's a game changer. It really is a major difference to get out of yourself and your isolation bubble and meet people and talk about things and investigate and being challenged yourself and challenge others, because it really breaks through and keep you growing and changing your perspective and moving forward. And it's this kind of like a stuckness that, or I don't know what I can do, or I can't do anything about it, that is like in a way, I think the most detrimental to your development and to development of your team, your organization, your product. And we just basically, as leaders, I think we just want to see what we do succeed, and we want to see our teams doing well, and we want to, make sure that things are ticking and growing and doing and are, I'd say, in a line of health, let's say. So yes, there are some things you can do about that, and
And it
that's what we're
seems
saying.
like you've created sort of like a focused communities with leadership. People can find themselves there, they can find similar issues, and also not feeling alone. And in the age of sort of technological divide, so to speak, we're getting further and further away from our physical communities, or like our circles become smaller and smaller. And you add on top of that, professionally, you are in this isolated role. Everything may feel a little bit too much, and you feel like you have to tackle it all on your own. So it's definitely something that you can, I think people listening described, why would people come in and what do you see the most the issues? I think lots of people listening would be able to relate to all of those issues. I know I was listening now, I was like, yes, I can see how the job security is massive. The speed of movement of everything, the change, it's I would describe it insane.
It's
Before
dizzying.
people would experience change maybe on a 3-year cycle. Now it's almost, to me, feels like 6 months.
Like
You
this,
have
yeah.
about 6 months to sort of 3 months to get your head around what's going on. 3 months maybe of some sort of stability, I'll say, put in quotes, and then after 6 months, something new comes up. So I think finding places like you've creating is becoming more and more almost like necessity to many professionals, and it's great that you have it there available for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for mentioning it like that, because it's definitely the way that we see it. We definitely the way that the response that we get from people is how important it is for them to have a real community also of leaders, whether it's in person or remote. So what we have is a bit of a hybrid situation where you have also the online community and programs and master classes and so on and events. And then you also have this physical community and events. And at the moment, we're a lot. We're a lot in Berlin, but we're also expanding to other major cities in the EU. We're convinced about it, but we're very open to understanding what it is that people really need right now. And we have a strong belief that it's very often less technological tools and more human connection. The future has to be human. We have to make this decision together and go and get closer and connect and make these steps. And this is one way of doing that. I'll just refer to a conversation I had in one of our events where one person grabbed me and said, like, where did you find these people? These are such an incredible collection of human specimens and leaders, and so they were so engaged. They were really really excited, and they're also directors of a company. And so they get to talk a lot to people and meet a lot of people. And that this kind of feedback warms my heart, but also really like we are there, we are out there. Like we if we create the right environment that helps people leave their professional armor a little bit behind and ask these questions together and have this open, safe space, but also connected and fun and interested, we see it as a major differentiator and a huge leverage to your development altogether.
Yeah, and this is something that is really needed. You created this beautiful ecosystem. You started with Berlin, but now you're expanding and you have leadership circles, you have coaching, you have events, but you also have leadership hub.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that so that our listeners could benefit from it in the near future?
Very happy to. It's something that we're super excited about because we're right now kind of building it and we're launching it by the end of this month, at the beginning of June. And basically, the whole thing is a community and growth platform where you have people sharing their perspectives and learnings and stories. You have people sharing tools and frameworks that work for them. There are like micro courses that we develop around specific areas that we're designing for. And if you are taking part in a peer circle program, this comes together with it. So you have this whole environment to continue to grow in and explore and communicate through in between the sessions. And then generally, there's a lot of content, programs, and perspectives that you can be in touch with, but the connections are very important. People really wanted and really are wishing to be better connected. And we found over time that, sorry, LinkedIn, if you're listening, but that such platforms as LinkedIn and other professional social media, they just don't really apply to the needs anymore. Maybe it used to be there, but right now it feels just like an ongoing job interview that never ends, and everyone kind of like sharing their development and I did this and I have these ideas. And if it would be a physical reality where it's like a huge marketplace and everyone kind of like, let me tell you my story, like sending out pamphlets, it would be a very weird place. And bots talking to you all the time, like they're not really like, no, it's like half of the network is not humans anymore. I'm not like saying it to diss it as like it's weird and don't use it, but just to say that it doesn't really apply to the needs of the community we find anymore, who want to stay connected and want authenticity and real connection and real content that is not a promotion, like a send me this in DM and you receive this PDF that is just elite magnet. And it's all good, but it's just not real. And they want more real. And we wanted to co-design this with the community to make this realness available for them, and to organize their own events and to organize their own sessions and meetups and share what works for them. As a community, you have so much more power over the environment that you create, and so many data points in a sense, but also many perspectives, like personal perspectives and stories that we can learn from. And we imagine that one day being a part of the club means that wherever you go in Europe, wherever you land, whether it's in London or Amsterdam or Ljubljana or wherever it is, you always have a club. You always have people who like leaders and that live there, they work there. You can connect with, you can meet. It's something of like a connection element altogether. So that's maybe a bit about the vision of it.
That's a great vision, and I hope that it will evolve even further and become a global vision. Bring it back to you.
Mhm.
You've developed a major product. You mentioned that you 2 years ago you became a father. When you do have children, it does change a lot of things, and I struggle to put into words, but something does happen, and everybody everybody that do have children would agree. So,
Yeah.
how do you feel you personally, through becoming a father, that's a different sort of leadership role that you've taken up, and through becoming a co-founder, how does your leadership, sorry, how does your leadership change, do you think? Do you think you became different? Is something better, something you're noticing?
Yeah, it's interesting. Absolutely. We say in Hebrew, "Maim va'aretz." It's like the skies and the earth. It's a very different world when you have family and when you don't. It's just what it is. And it's funny because I talk to my wife sometimes, and we both feel that we've been going through so many changes in our life with so many transformations that it's a bit like it feels like so many reincarnations, like in one lifetime that you're reborn. Suddenly you're reborn as a parent then, or reborn as a founder of a company, and it's like it totally changes everything for the way that you look at things, and definitely in the way that you lead. I remember when I was working. I had quite a big team that I was leading back then, when we just had our baby. She's not a baby anymore. She's 2. When we just had her, and it was very interesting because I have now a collection of photos of how I'm like, holding her, but also like trying to work a little bit or talk to someone, or like putting her to sleep and having a Zoom call with the team. I think that it makes you, as a leader, it makes you more flexible because you have to there's these worlds that demand your presence fully, like really, really fully. So you need to find real full present time with both, and then you need to be a bit flexible about the in between. That is always like the world is messy, and it's okay. To deal with that is how we react to things is. The place where we make the difference, and then you have all these situations, and then you also start to look differently as a I don't know like how to explain this, but as a leader, you are kind of responsible, no matter the scale of where you work, but you're responsible for, in a way, lives of other people in some extent. And it's like the limitations of it depends on the situation, but you are responsible for them. And I like to imagine a little bit that each one of us was this vulnerable child growing up, and we had caretakers, and our caretakers took, well, at least good enough care of us so that we are here and have survived and grew up and became the people that we are. And maybe they're still there hoping that we're doing good and that we are in good environment and that people take care of us. And I feel that like that changed a little bit the way that I look at it from a leader perspective, because it made me understand that I have a role as a leader to provide an environment for growth like that. That people can feel safe, they can feel good about what they're doing, that they can, enjoy and have fun and still be themselves, bring their best selves, bring their best ideas, feel that it's welcome, feel that they are a part of something, and they can grow there. There is a kind of like a parental element that wakes up inside of you, maybe woke up inside of me, that kind of in a fractal manner goes a little bit more into everything that I do at the moment. So maybe this is a little bit of that.
That's
It's a
beautifully
beautiful
put.
answer. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
very beautiful. And listening to you, I had one thought that you described being flexible, being more caring. For me, it's probably becoming more human as a leader as well, or kind of going back to the start. Because we're all born human, and then we become professional. Sometimes so we may lose certain part of the humanity
Absolutely.
when tasked with day-to-day challenges. But becoming more human, I guess, that's something that resonated with me. As what changes when you become a parent while being a leader.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
not everything is black and white, I feel, right? Before you have children, the world, other people, the relationships, they seem a little bit black and white, right? This is good, this is bad, this is correct and correct. But like Bo, you mentioned, life is messy. And, coming into the
Life is
role and
messy.
seeing somebody didn't turn up on time to the meeting and they're working from home, but then you start talking to them, you realize they have a small baby, and the baby, was crying at the moment, so they
They have
couldn't
a whole
turn up. Yeah,
context.
Exactly. And there is this empathy, there's more empathy that comes with
Absolutely.
that and into the situation. And the works that we do, we all do important jobs and our professions matter, but not many of us do life saving work that the meeting that gets delayed by 10 minutes would matter much. So that's a good reminder always.
Sure. But how we react to things always makes a huge difference. It always makes a huge
Absolutely.
difference for everyone involved, and how included they feel and how good they feel at their work and how much they can bring themselves. And that's what, that it's all about, creating these environments. I think that's basically it. Maybe one day in the future, we'll have just like all robots doing the very messy technical stuff, just we're doing all the technical stuff, and they have their own systems. We don't even have to be so integrated into their work, and we can be more human at work. But I do believe that the work is changing, the way that we see work is changing, and how interconnected that is with who we are in our life is inevitable to be combined, and we should make space for that as well, and not cut things, and and make sure, because it's a whole world, it's a whole context. Every person is an entire world, and they deserve a space.
Absolutely.
Our decisions matter. If we're um, leading, managing a team, building a company, whatever it is, like we have a bit more responsibility and ownership and the opportunity to make a shift happen wherever you are.
That's
Yes. And
beautiful.
as the head says, shift
Yeah,
happens.
true, true. I have my hat. Here we go.
Bo, thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us today and sharing your background, sharing your story, sharing how you came to create this amazing project that you have right now and that is benefiting so many people. We will be sharing, obviously, all the links below our conversation so people can easily find you, connect with you, and connect with Leadership as well, and hopefully join. And we wish you all the luck. I know lots of changes are happening just within your organization right now. So we
Mhm.
wish you all the luck and we be supporting you along the way in any way we can.
Thank you so much. So happy to have this conversation with you. Thank you for the space, and definitely an open invitation to anyone listening that wants to connect and learn more. And if I can support in any way, regardless of the Leadership Club, but I hope that Leadership Club can be a good platform and venue for them.